352, Destroyer Division 46, having closed the enemy to 3,000 yards, changes course to the left and fires 19 torpedoes. About 2 minutes later, 2 explosions are felt, and a single column of black smoke rose from the target group. Again, no flashes of explosions were noted. The division opened to 7,000 yards and changed course to the west to cross the enemy T from astern, and at 03:58 opened fire. Spence's first salvo was seen to go over on the radar screen, but second and subsequent salvos appeared to land in the center of target. At 04:01, Bridge reported 2 targets being hit and on fire. At 04:03, Division 45 sighted this gunfire to port and shortly afterwards picked up Spence's report that she was engaging 2 targets. Division 45 was chasing a target that must have been making about 38 knots, but lost it by 04:07 when it disappeared over the horizon. At 04:10, Spence lost suction and fell out of column. Salt water in the fuel was causing her to smoke badly. At this time, one ship was tracked pulling out at good speed to the northwest. Converse and Thatcher engaged this target. It slowed to 7 knots as many hits were made and a flare-up observed. Division 45, now coming in, spotted a ship ahead which was smoking badly, and being unable to identify, reported over TBS that they were going to open up on it. Spence, also smoking from loss of suction, replied, "Don't do it, that's us." Consequently, Desdiv 45 passed up this target, which later received the attention of Converse and Thatcher. At this time, it is not clear how Thatcher and Converse escaped being fired upon by Desdiv 45. Converse and Thatcher engaged the smoking target, leaving it burning extensively, and in the opinion of the commanding officer of Converse, in a sinking condition. Perhaps both of these enemy ships sank. Neither one was sighted by our large airstrike, which covered this area a few hours later in daylight. When Spence sheered out of column, she steered a westerly course, during which time Division 45 was definitely trying to locate her. At 04:38, Osborne made a contact on her port bow and tried for 3 minutes to identify. Then, deciding it was an enemy ship, Division 45 opened fire. Unfortunately, Spence was straddled with 5 salvos before the target was established as friendly. This is another instance where a ship of Division 46 had no IFF. ComDesDiv 45 instructed Spence to trail his division to minimize confusion in identifying groups. A sound procedure. In the meantime, Spence had picked up a new target to the southeast. Cruiser Division 12, now on a westerly course, had been tracking this ship for some time and strongly suspected her of being enemy. At 04:58, Montpelier fired an offset salvo across her bow and asked by TBS if the ship on that bearing was a friend. Receiving no reply, a salvo was delivered by the whole division. By a strange coincidence, Spence was on the same general bearing, but beyond the target. Spence reported immediately that she was being fired on. Apparently, the enemy ship was firing on Spence at the same time. Division 45 was chasing another fleeing target toward the northeast, while Spence was closing the target that had fired on her. At 05:10, Spence identified it as enemy and opened fire, which fire was returned immediately. At 05:15, Division 45 came to course 230 to assist when Spence reported her ammunition almost exhausted. At 05:19, Division 45 commenced firing. The fire was accurate and effective. And a few moments later, the target was afire, the bow completely aflame, a condition which was soon corrected. Within 3 minutes, the bridge was demolished, and Division 45 closed to identify it definitely as a Fubuki-class destroyer. At 05:42, the target sank. The cruisers cross a heavy oil slick as day dawns, and all ships are recalled to rendezvous at Foot's position. As Task Force 39 left the scene with Foot in tow, no other surface ships were visible. The radar screen was clear, except for friendly planes. So the only important question of the moment was,
how do you all want your ham and eggs, sir?
In reviewing the conduct of this engagement, certain observations are indicated which may be of help to us in our future battles. I've jotted down those which are the most apparent to me. We found that our own aircraft scouts' 2 reports on the location, composition, course, and speed of the enemy were phenomenally accurate. The task force commander's plan and doctrine were well known by his cruiser and destroyer captains through frequent conferences and tactical exercises. With a favorable tactical situation obtaining, Destroyer Division 45 was immediately released after contact in the expectation of achieving surprise. A policy of immediate destroyer attack requires A, that the destroyers be ready for attack, and B, that the attack be initiated at the first favorable opportunity after contact. No weapon that can inflict early and continuous damage on the enemy should be held in reserve. Our position at the time of contact was favorable for sending both destroyer groups into the attack on either bow of the enemy simultaneously had the commander of destroyer's left flank obtained an earlier torpedo solution. His slight delay was due to his greater distance from the enemy. In view of the darkness of the night, the very brief period of training that Destroyer Division 46 had enjoyed in other than screening formations, and the intention of the OTC to maneuver his cruisers radically by simultaneous ship's movements, it was desirable to send in this division as quickly as possible before it became disorganized. The early initiation of a determined torpedo attack may result in the disabling of vital units and render the enemy a much easier target for gunfire. In this battle, as in so many others, the light forces wound up a melee. Such a dispersed melee is not surprising in a night engagement. It's rather to be expected in the type of naval warfare we are experiencing. It's therefore all the more urgent that task force commanders give it intensive consideration with the idea of developing a technique and doctrine which will make it possible to press a pursuit and mop up without having the units get out of hand, get lost, cover the same area or target unnecessarily, interfere with each other, or mistake a friend for an enemy and fire on him. Our very success in putting the enemy to flight in night action has introduced this difficult tactical problem. This difficulty is enhanced in proportion to the number of our own and enemy ships which are disabled, and in leaving formation create additional pips on the radar screen. The tracking of own groups becomes at times as important as the tracking of enemy groups. There's a tendency to lose track of groups who go off the radar screen at short scale. Plotted points must be joined, labeled, and direction of motion indicated by arrows. Otherwise, a plot becomes a meaningless mass of hen scratches. For instance, the 46th Division divided from attack on the central enemy group. Division 45 tracked 46, believing it to be enemy. Division 45 passed up an enemy target smoking, thinking it to be friendly. Division 45 fired on Spence. These mistakes, understandable under the difficult conditions then encountered, can be avoided by tracking methods that ensure all forces are continuously tracked and the application of positive identification methods in confused situations, both very difficult during battle. Most communications were by TBS, except for some use of the secondary frequency for ships outside the TBS range. The restrictions necessitated by wartime radio operations have bred a new generation of radio men who rely more and more on voice frequency with consequent loss of efficiency. Training on key circuits should be carried out at every opportunity. Many failures result from the proper authority not getting the word. These failures frequently occur because of misunderstanding due to new men and to lack of standard phraseology. It would have been very valuable in this action to have had the services of our own spotter in a radar-equipped plane. Such a plane might also have been employed as a smoker and for dropping of flares, both for target illumination and recognition, and for counter-illumination. The use of tomcats evolved in the South Pacific solves this problem to some extent. There were none assigned on this particular night. The use of smoke had an immediate deleterious effect on the accuracy of enemy gunfire. Soon after the smoke screen was ordered, the enemy closed rapidly. It is believed that the presence of large quantities of black smoke when the enemy thought they were hitting led them to believe that they had crippled us and they were coming in for the kill. The volume of fire the enemy met as soon as they came within the continuous fire range evidently showed them their error. The enemy's spotting and deflection was poor. His salvos were largely just ahead. Our own spotters may make the same mistake. If the target is moving at high speed, this may cause a splash 50 yards ahead to appear abreast of the target's bridge. Cruising speeds in war zones and battle speeds should not be set at even multiples of 5. It stands to reason that these speeds are more often than not used in the torpedo and gunnery solutions. When the Japanese were about to establish consistent hitting on our ships, damage was avoided by timely maneuvers at high speed, by our own smoke screen, for the serious disabling of some of the Japanese ships, and by counter-illumination. The performance of the ordnance material was excellent during the 2 bombardments, during the battle, and throughout the heavy enemy air attack which followed the battle. It is clearly evident that our greatest advantage at this time over the Japanese forces in night engagements lies in the efficiency of our radar and its application to our tactical and fire control problems. However, the evaluator must have an excellent grasp of the entire tactical situation in order to pass on this picture in words to the captain on a darkened bridge. Where practicable, the CIC should be accessible to the captain. Otherwise, he must have a tactical plot on the bridge. The OTC must see the graphic plot during night action, even if forced by faulty design to fight his force from the bowels of his flagship. And in this connection, we learn the most important lesson of the battle. The CIC of Destroyer Division 46 flagship is 2 decks below the bridge. Normally at night, the division commander handled his division from this station. When the Thatcher and his flagship collided, the division commander dashed up to the bridge and hence lost contact with the plot. His CIC personnel with comparatively little experience became disoriented in the absence of the division commander and reported the enemy's center column as friendly. The division turned away to the northward and missed the golden opportunity to put 30 torpedoes into 2 Japanese heavy cruisers at 4,000 yards range. The lesson learned is that the captain should have ready access to his CIC, or if not practicable, a tactical plot. The unit commander must have ready access from his bridge battle station to his flag plot. We sailors should all have a clear appreciation of the limitations of aircraft as well as their virtues. When Com Task Force 31 requested that Task Force 39 take position between St. George's Channel and Empress Augusta Bay, Air Solomons replied that if this Jap task force reversed its course, the air would destroy it before it could reach Empress Augusta Bay. Only the reconnaissance planes, which made the 2 excellent contact reports, were in evidence on this black and squally night. Had Commander South Pacific and the commander of the landing operation failed to appreciate aircraft limitations, the enemy task force would have destroyed our transports and mine-laying detachment and shelled our troops and supplies, which were freshly landed on the beaches of Empress Augusta Bay.